because Lynam wasn't supposed to be a real band. Like,
really,
his thing was the Bed Bugs. They had been rehearsing for like 6 months. They had, come up with this whole thing, and that was going to be it. And so Lynam was just a joke. When we started the band, he was the worst drummer I'd ever played with in my life. Like, he wasn't actually a drummer. He was a mascot, and he was.
I really was. We'd record the album. I'd be crying when I left the studio. I would be in tears.
You're like, hey man, can you get us a juice box and we'll let this guy.
He was known around town as the guy that would show up to all the shows, US Pygmies, anybody that would play, and he'd be like, "Oh, let me play a song," and he'd get up on stage and just
shit the bed.
Yeah, it'd be the worst thing ever. And
hey guys,
Jacob, tell us how you really feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is I had just come out of Mars Electric, and Mars Electric was a great band, but we didn't get along, so it wasn't. We just didn't. And I met David. He was actually working the door at Billy's when US was playing. Billy's being a club in Mountain Brook, Alabama, and he was like. He told me about a gig that he had at Brothers in Jacksonville, and he goes, "Man, I need a singer. Bedbugs isn't ready yet, but it's me and Chris Giovanelli and Josh Moore."
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, we just need a singer for the night. And I was like, all right. So I showed up, and we played, and, it was fun. And I was like, well, let's do another show of covers. This is cool. This is easy money. And I said, I know a bass player named Brian that's awesome. And David's like, well, who's going to play guitar? I'm like, I play guitar. He didn't know I played guitar at this point.
Right.
I didn't know anything about him. I just saw this weird dude around town.
Yeah. Yeah. And
like, my dad wouldn't, if he was alive, would never let me hang out with that guy.
Never.
So I'll join a band with him for 20 years. That's what I'll do.
So our very first show as Lynam was at the arena. But before we had a name, he's like, well, what do you want to call this cover band or whatever? Yeah. And I said, you're terrible. And everybody knows you're terrible. I was like, let's call the band Lynam, because that's going to be hilarious to every band in town or whatever that you've got a band named after you. And he goes, no, dude, we're not going to call the band my last name. And we literally, we were at his house. We went upstairs and took one of his mom's bed sheets and wrote Lynam really big as our backdrop. Yeah.
Oh, that's
cool.
And
then we would hang it up everywhere that we played. We'd have everybody sign it. But that was the joke. People would ride by and see on the sign Lynam. So it's like people like Sandy that ran sound for Four on the Floor. It was like they just couldn't wrap their head around how this guy has a band named after him. And so we played that show at the arena, and keep in mind, we never did a rehearsal. And David was really nervous. He was like, well, what are we going to play? And I was like, we'll figure it out when we get up on stage. Yeah. He had never met Brian before. I think you guys met the day of the show. Brian's loading in his bass rig, David's loading in his drums, and up until showtime, David's still nervous, and he's like, what are we going to play? And I'm like, David, you're a big music fan. You've heard songs on the radio always. I was like, you're a drummer. There's only 2 beats.
That's what he thinks about drummers.
and he's like, what are we going to play? And I walk up to the mic, and I'm like, hey, everybody, what do you want to hear? And somebody yelled out, Metallica. So I started Enter Sandman. He came in. We did the whole night like that. We did, Enter Sandman and The Man in the Box and just whatever anybody wanted to hear. And we had so much fun. We played 4 hours straight, no break. And that was our thing for the first 2 years as a band. We never took a break, ever.
Yeah.
Played straight through 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever we were doing. And
$300 a night too. We were happy as shit.
We were so
$100 a man.
And after we played that arena show, they asked us back. David booked us at Half Shells. The guy that booked the club across the street from the arena was a place called The Mill.
Yeah.
That guy booked us. And then a guy named Steve Dobrinsky that owned a restaurant called Buffalo saw us play. Next thing you know, we're playing every night of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we were a $300 a night band. But once we got to the point where all of the dates were booked, it's like, well, let's see if we can charge more if people want us. And so then the guarantee just went up and up and up and up. And the next thing you know, we're all making like a a real living, like doing this. And it was like, well, it looks like we're doing this full time now. I don't want to just do the cover band thing. Let's record a record and try to get something going on. And and that's how we started the band.
That's crazy, man.
It was a joke.